and welcome to Series 2, Lesson 1 of Learning Synthesis with Pure Data. In this series, we're going to be looking at LWM Rack. This is a system that I developed for Pure Data, whereby you have a number of different modules that you can load into a patch and combine them in all sorts of different ways, patch them one to another in different open ways in which you wish to have them communicate with each other, and it's really an open-ended synthesizer building system. And we're going to start off by looking at the different modules that I've created thus far, and I've made plenty, but we're going to start off with some of the three basic ones today, and we're going to see how they work together, how the system works, and then in each video afterwards we'll add more modules and more modules and more modules until basically you'll have a well-developed modular synthesis system that you can use to develop your own synthesizers as well as your own sounds. This system will be able to be used with virtual MIDI connections with a DAW, so it's very flexible and can be used with any kind of compositional system that you have. Another advantage to this system is, since I'm going to be releasing them in this series little by little, this is our beta testing. Basically, I've done a number of debugging and hooking up of things to try and make sure everything's working, but you really don't find out if there's any other little bugs here or there until other people start using it. And so that's why, over this series, I'd like you to communicate with me about the different modules and the different videos in the comment section below. That way, I can answer questions, or we can improve the system as we go. If there are things that you make using LWM Rack, either sounds or synthesizers, or even if you make your own modules in the future as we learn more about the system, please do let me know. This is under the GPL3 license, so basically you are allowed to take the source, which is the Pure Data patches that I made, and you're allowed to develop your own new versions of it if you wish. And all I ask is that you give me some credit, link back to me, and I'll link to you, and we can basically mutually promote one another and the work that we've done. So, in any case, I think that's all I want to say in this intro. Any questions, comments, and everything, please leave in the comment section below. And remember, this is the first video. I'm just showing you some of the basic modules, and probably by the end you'll be hungry for the next video to see what other modules there are, so that you can make more and more complex synthesizers. But we gotta do it little by little. I'm trying to keep each video about an hour long at the most, so I'm just going to do a few modules at this point. But these are the basic modules that you'll be using in pretty much all the synthesizers you build, and everything else just kind of spans out from there. So Crafty's going to make sure that I stick to the point and that all my examples are nice and clean. And basically, at the end of this video, Crafty said he does have a few things he wants to say. There's been some viewer communication directed towards him, and he just wants to respond to it. So I'll see you at the end, but here comes lesson number 1. Okay, so I'm here at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/LWMmusic, and there's a download for this tutorial. So you'll want to click on LWM Music here, or go to lwmmusic.com. You'll get the intro page here. Just click on my face, and here's the website. This series is Learning Synthesis with Pure Data, Series 2, this one right here. If you haven't done Series 1, you probably want to do that to learn fundamentals of synthesis as well as how Pure Data works. So as you go in this, if you get confused, please do Series 1. So anyway, Series 2 is where the download for this video will be located. And here's where the video is going to be. If you're seeing this later, where there's other videos, other lessons, scroll down to Lesson 1, and the video will be here, and then there'll be a link right here for the download. And so let's get to it. Here is the download. It'll actually be in a zip file, but in the zip file is a folder. You just open that folder. It's the lesson 1 folder, and it has moved to my other display. So let me pull it over here. There we go. So anyway, the lesson 1 folder looks like this. It has a PD file in it called patch, and then it has a folder called rack. You're able to rename this file patch or rename the folder everything's contained in, but do not rename the rack folder nor anything in it. I'm going to show you that in a second. But first I'm going to open the patch file, and you will see it is blank. Let me get my PD window over here so I can show you that too, because there'll be some things I need to point out. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm just managing the 2 displays and keeps wanting to go to the other one. Alright, so there we go, and the patch file is blank. Basically, we're going to be starting with a clean slate. You'll want to keep your zip file that you download, because every time you build something new, you'll want to copy the contents out of it, and starting from scratch is usually a good idea. You'll see why as we go. Now, there's a system to LWM Rack. Basically, you're going to have a patch file in the main folder, and then in the rack folder, we have all the abstractions you would load in. These abstractions are really modules that will appear here in the patch file for your building. Now, there are abstractions here, meaning these PD files. Some of them have a module and patch bay ending, some of them do not. And each one has a folder that goes with it. Those that have a module and a patch bay ending just have one folder they share. And you'll see how these things work as we go on. And we're going to start right now by putting in the first module. It'll be our mono MIDI In basic module. These files are named in such a way that those that are monophonic synth modules are named mono underscore and then a name following it saying what module it is. And those are for audio signal flow entirely have the name audio at the beginning. This is so in a file list they organize easily so that you can find what you're looking for. We're going to start with mono MIDI in basic because we're going to need basic MIDI input for our monophonic synthesizer that we're making. There will be polyphonic modules later as time goes on. I haven't made any yet, but I have made many more monophonic modules here, and I'll be introducing them as we go throughout this video series. We're just going to start with a few here, just the basic ones, to see how the system works. Now, to load one of these modules in, this is what you need to do. You go to your patch file here that's open, and you make an object. I use the Control-1 shortcut, Command-1 to Mac. And then what you need to do is type in the abstraction you want to load. Now, all of these are in a folder called Rack, so you want to name it Rack / and then the file name, mono MIDI in basic -module space. And then this is the next thing you need to do, is I'm going to put now just a capital letter A, and then I'll explain it later. You should probably just do the same for now. Okay, so we see our mono MIDI in basic module here, and we see the letter A up here. This is a name, and what this does is this identifies this unique module as capital letter A. And you just need to use different names each time you load in more than one module of the same type. Probably not going to load in another MIDI in basic module. One's enough. But it's good to name them anyway. Now you saw 2 errors appear here. When you load in a module for the first time, this is normal for these 2 errors to appear. But afterwards, they should not appear for the same module anymore. unless you put in a new module, then those two errors come in as soon as you put it in. That's known, and that's the way it goes. So anyway, let me just show you about this naming things. You see it's named capital letter A, and if I go to its folder here, you see its name is Mono MIDI in Basic. It has a folder that's Mono MIDI in Basic, and you see there's a text file that appeared there called A. The name of the module that you give it and the text file will be named the same. You do need to use names without spaces, so I recommend you just use letter A, B, C, D, and so forth as you add modules of the same type. There probably won't be another Mono MIDI in Basic in this basic synth we're making. In fact, there won't be. So there will only be this one that's A. Now what this file has is these are all the parameters of the settings here, of the sliders and number boxes. And basically these are saved parameters that appear automatically. The first one, for example, is channel. Then comes the pitch bend amount, then the pitch bend's value, 8,192, which is center. It's a range of 0 to 16,383, so center is 8,192. And you see channel is 1. I'm keeping it on channel 1 because that's the channel my MIDI controller's on. So this is a monophonic MIDI input module, and it's a basic one, meaning it has all your basic controls like note, velocity, pitch bend, mod wheel, volume, pan, expression. It does receive sustain, and so forth. I'll go into more detail about this in a moment, but just to show you how the parameter saving works, I'm going to take one of these values here. Actually, I think I'll do this one. I believe this 0 here is the mod wheel. So watch this. I'm going to move the mod wheel up by moving it like that. You could also move the mod wheel on your keyboard. For example, I'm moving it now, but mine's spring loaded to go back to 0. So I'm going to just move it up to here. And then let's open this text file again. And immediately you'll see the 0 is no longer here. It's now 53. That's apparently the number position that it's at in a range of 0 to 127. So this text file gets written to automatically in real time every time you change a parameter. So your parameters always get saved, and they get saved in a text file that's named for the module's name. In the module's file name type here, Mono MIDI in Basic. So all Mono MIDI in Basic modules will save to here depending on what their name is to separate files. So all their parameters are kept separate. If I had a second module, I'd want its settings to be adjustable and different than this one. So I would name it B, and there would be a B text file here. We'll see that a little bit later because there actually are some modules where I'm going to use them twice, or at least one that I'm going to use twice. So let's keep working with this. We're slowly learning the system. Next, I'm going to put in the patch bay for this module. Some modules have a patch bay, so those are named with a dash module at the end or a dash patch bay at the end, and they are meant to go together. Let me show you a quick way of putting a module's name in, for example. I'm selecting the file name, hitting Control-C to copy it, Command-C in Mac. I'm making a new object, typing rack / I'm pasting the file name, space A, because this patch bay goes with this module. It's named A, so its patch bay will be named A as well. Now, these patch bays serve as your inputs and outputs, your inlets and outlets in PD for your modules. And so this is designed to go with this. That's why they have the same file name except dash module and dash patch bay at the end. And the way they hook up and connect to one another is you take the right bottom inlet here, and it is an inlet. I know it may not look like one. That's because the canvas goes all the way to the edge on the inside. And I thought it just looked nicer having these labeled, color-coded kind of outlets and so forth. So you go here to this outlet and connect it to this inlet. Notice how they're both gray. And then connect this outlet to this. Oops. Connect this outlet to this inlet here. So the way you find inlets and outlets is you hover over them. And like this one will be going along with this, which is note. This one here will be going along this, which is frequency, and so on. They are color-coded, and I'll explain the color coding as we go. Blue means MIDI, green means frequency, and they're differentiated because their number ranges are different. Blue means the number range of that controller is whatever that controller's number range is in MIDI. Most of the time it's 0 to 127, like for mod, expression, volume, pan, note, velocity. But pitch bend's different. It's 0 to 16,383. It's a 14-bit MIDI controller message. And so its number range, you just need to know in your mind that, for pitch bend, its number range is different. But all these color coding says this is the MIDI value range for that parameter or that thing. And the green one is for frequency, meaning it's in a range of hertz. Pretty much the audible frequency spectrum, although it goes up to really, I forget what it is at the top of my head, but it's like the top MIDI note in frequency value. But these are frequency values, so they're obviously different ranges in these, so they're color-coded differently. Now, what I'm going to do is add another module, because we're going to actually use this to play some notes. And I would assume that hopefully you go to the media menu, check your MIDI settings, and make sure that your MIDI input is set up to whatever your controller keyboard is. You could probably still learn from this without having a controller keyboard at hand, but it's always nice to have one to control a synthesizer. Otherwise, you'll be trying to close this window, and the mouse cursor disappears on me. Oh, I am sorry. This whole time, I've been viewing the MIDI properties menu here, and it hasn't been on screen for you. Sorry about that. That's what I was fussing with this whole time, that I was clicking up there. Then I was trying to click on it. See, I have two displays coming through the same monitor. My screen recording software likes to use the second display, so that's why now and then I have to go fish menus out of the other display, which means I slide left and do some things to get a hold of it. But anyway, you see here it has my input of the SL Mark II. That's my keyboard. That's good. I press OK. Okay. So I've checked that, and I do hit the keys, and I see notes are changing, frequency numbers are changing, so is velocity. We're getting signal. We're good. So now let's control some sound. Next thing I'm going to put in is the VCO module. This is voltage controlled oscillator. It basically means your sound producing oscillator. I'm clicking the file name again just to make it quick to paste in. Remember though, you do have to type the rack folder name / then the file name without the .pd extension, space. I'm going to call this A2 because it's my first VCO. And we get those two errors again. That's normal because this is the first VCO I put in. Now I'm going to put in a patch bay for the VCO. Anything that has a dash module and a dash patch bay, you should load in the module and the patch bay and name them the same. That's why I'm putting a space A after that, and I'm going to hook it up the same way as the MIDI In basic above. And here we go. Okay, so we're good on that. Now, in order to hear the sound that this oscillator produces, we need to have an output. And I've included audio output stereo. This is set up to go to your first and second outputs, meaning stereo left and right. So I'm going to make an object, type rack / paste the name in. It is also A as the first audio output module. Really, those names could be anything you want as long as you don't put spaces in the name. You need space, put the name, no spaces in it. I like to just use letters. I think A, B, C is good. Alphabets lasted us a long time. Okay, so I'm going to take the outlet from this VCO, which it says bottom left red marker there. The color red means audio. It means it's an audio signal. And I can hook it up to the left and right inputs here on the audio output module. Now this audio output module automatically turns your DSP on, and so it should be ready to go. I'm going to turn it down though so I don't blast people. Crafty's been warning me. I'm going to turn it down a lot just to make sure. And then, in order to hear this oscillator, we need to send it frequency at least. So I'm going to connect frequency up here to frequency here. And now it'll feed it frequency and we'll hear it. So I was hitting different keys and I have released them, but the sound doesn't stop. That's common for MIDI. Let me turn off the, not MIDI, but for synthesis, let me turn off the DSP up here just so we don't have to hear that tone. But basically the idea is your oscillator generates signal, and if you want to change it going on and off with you playing the keys, you need an envelope. And I have one here. It's mono ADSR module and patch bay, another pair. So I'm going to do this. Rack / paste the name in. And you guessed it, letter A. That turned DSP on automatically just by being there. But let me turn this key off. I'm going to go up here to gate output from MIDI, and connect it to, I need the patch bay. I need the patch bay for the inlets for this ADSR module. So let's do that quick. Rack / mono _ADSR - patch bay. There's a system to these file names, so they line up in a file list according to a logical order. And so let's hook it up. And now I'm going to take gate right here. Oh, that's PB pitch bend. Gate right here. It's orange. And I'm going to explain the orange connections in a moment. But I connect it there. Now I'm going to hit a key. Hold on just a second. Something right here. I brought this guy in. Do I need to change any settings here? Oh, I know what my problem is. Brain fart. Okay. The VCO is not going through the envelope, so I have to disconnect the VCO's connection to the audio output here and connect it to the envelope module. The VCO signal needs to go through the envelope for the envelope to affect it. And the envelope will shape its amplitude over time, as envelopes tend to do. So now let's connect it over here to left and right. We're not hearing sound because the key has been released. And now I'll press a key again. So we're hearing these short, really quiet notes. And that's because my level's down low here, and also my sustain level over here is kind of low. We have ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. This means a quick attack. Let's make the decay time a little longer. And then it basically over the decay time, it reduces amplitude to the sustain level. This is the sustain's level in proportion to the attack level. The attack level gets calculated based on your gate value coming in, which is your velocity up here, converted from its MIDI range of 0 to 127 to the range of 0 to 1. The 0 to 1 range is used a lot in PD synthesis and controlling synthesis things. So the orange represents anything that has a range of 0 through 1. And so gate has that range. And what a gate is it's basically converting your velocity here, meaning the note's on, and then also how high of a velocity is it, means how high of a number it is in a range of 0 to 1. So you hear there, I hit some softer ones at the beginning and then louder ones. So that becomes your peak level, and then your sustain level is how much lower it is than your peak level, which is what comes in the attack. Let me make the attack quick. There we go. And you hear a little punch at the beginning, the boo. That's because we have a certain amount of decay time before it decays to this level. This here, dur index, is the index of duration in milliseconds. It means how long do any time-based sliders here calculate their time based on this, by multiplying times this. The attack, decay, and release are all ranges of 0.01 up to 1, which means they never go absolutely to 0, because then you would hear snapping sounds called artifacts. But they basically go from 0.01 up to 1, and it gets multiplied by this number here. So if you want, on the average, like longer lasting times, put in a higher number, like 1,000, which means 1 second. 1,000 milliseconds. So now they'll last a little longer in comparison. Let me turn up my release time, so when I release the key, there's a little bit of a decay at the end of the note. There we go. It's your ADSR filter. The total here shows the total amount of time of your different stages here. It doesn't include you holding down the key like this, because when you're holding down the key, it doesn't know how long you're going to hold it down. So it totals up the amount of time the attack, decay, and release are taking up. Now, if you do want a fixed sustain time, it will include that in the total. And so you could say, let's put this sustain time halfway up. So it's going to be about half of a second worth of sustain time. Now I'm still holding the key, but it already released over a certain amount of time, which also looks like about a half a second, because I set a sustain time. So this way you could have set sustain times. And if you want to turn that off, you put this at 0, and then it's automatically how long you hold the key. And it'll release when you release the key over the amount of time you set with release here. And you see a display here of your waveform going on and off. So that's your ADSR in a nutshell. We got a basic synth going here. Let me show you more about the VCO. The VCO, first of all, has selectable waveforms. The first one that we've been hearing here is a sine wave. The next one up is the next one, the next simple waveform in harmonic richness, which is the triangle. Now let me show you one of the sliders here. This module actually has double oscillators in it that line up in phase. So really there's two oscillators making this triangle wave. They're both at the same frequency and half strength, and they're adding up to one, basically like they're one single oscillator. But if you move this slider up, you can change. Hold on. I was hearing it for a bit there, then it stopped. It seems to be working just fine for the lower half. But there it disappeared for the upper half. I need to fix something here, so I'll make this, I'll debug this before putting this file up to download. But basically the idea is it's supposed to bend up an octave or down an octave. And if you want them to be unison, you hit the U here to make them middle. But a lot of times you can find it. But if you can't quite lock in on it, hit the U. And they're unison. So there we go. I'll fix that other problem. This is supposed to be able to be bendable, and you hear the thing change as you go up. But I obviously have a little bug to fix there. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to stop the tutorial. So you have triangle wave, and this frequency works for all the waveforms. And then this is pulse wave. Right now it's square. Also with this detuning thing, you could control the balance of your two oscillators here. 1 and 2. 1 is the frequency coming in from the keyboard. 2 is the frequency of the bent second oscillator. So there I have like a soft lower octave. Added to the mix. Now, since this is a pulse wave, you can also use PWM, pulse width modulation, right here. Let me do that louder. And if you need to find the middle, you just hit this here, S for square. So anyway, and if you ever find that your waveforms, after moving some of these things around, get out of phase, you hit this button here, and it locks them back in. But in any case, they're not going to look perfectly square because it's 2 octaves going on here with this turned all the way down. So let me finish up this module, then I'm going to go back to MIDI. We also have sawtooth here. Obviously the balance and the frequency will work on that, but not the pulse width modulation. Nor this guy here. This is noise focus, and that's for the last, most harmonically rich oscillator, which is noise. And normally when you hit it, it's just going to sound like noise. But as you turn this up, you focus the noise with a bandpass filter. And it gets closer and closer to. It's kind of soft. So let me turn up the level here. It's kind of pitched. If we turn it up all the way, it'll be even more so. I may in time adjust the ranges of this and this thing if I feel like the focus should get focused more. And plus there's a little bit of a jump down here. Not too much of one. There is one. But anyway, In any case, so those are our different waveforms and controls of this. We have a glide here that's best heard on one of these other waveforms. Since it's a monophonic synthesizer, this gives you a certain amount of time that you can glide in between notes. And in fact, if you don't release notes, you can do just bend around. Of course, having emphasis on the attack will make them have stronger attacks when you click one to the other. If I turn the sustain level all the way up, though, there's no difference between the attack and sustain levels, so you don't hear anything punchy. So anyway, I think that's all the VCO we need to look at. Of course, there's inlets and outlets of all these different settings and parameters. You can have this frequency routed to something else, controlling it with its range, 0 to 1. Everything up here that's 0 to 1 can be patched to everything 0 to 1 here. For example, and this is something else I should explain, you see how over here we have a pitch bend that affects your frequency so long as you have it on here, but this gives you the option of turning it off. Like right now, if I play a note, my pitch bend will bend up and down the amount you set here. I have 12. That means an octave. You could type in other numbers like 7 for a perfect fifth. Sorry for the stuttering. The stuttering in the audio arises from the fact that I'm recording this on screen as well, video and audio, as well as recording a separate audio track from my microphone at the same time, and so it stutters for that reason. A lot of things happening at once here. But if I turn this off, the frequency no longer has the pitch bend affecting it. I'm moving the wheel, it moves here in the display, but it doesn't affect your frequency coming out. This number stays the same. But what you can do with that is take the pitch bend here, its orange output, which is a range of 0 to 1, hook that up to something else that receives 0 to 1. Like frequency 2 here would be a good option, because then I still need to fix the upward bend of it. But that's why things are color-coded. All your orange things are ranges of 0 to 1 and can be connected to one another. It doesn't mean they'll be logical to use with one another, like if you have the pitch bend connected to your pulse width modulation. Since your pitch bend always goes to the middle, it'll always go back to square wave right in the middle. Or if you have it hooked up to noise focus, it'll always go back to the middle if it's spring-loaded like mine. So sometimes you may not find it to be an ergonomic control. But like mod wheel here, I can take the mod wheel signal out here. It's 0 to 1 signal. And connect it to balance, for example, balancing between these two oscillators. So I have to bend down with the pitch bend to go down. Now move the mod wheel up to hear the low one, the high one. So that's why they're color coded. So to finish off the color coding, green is frequency, blue's MIDI. But you know the pitch bends right here is going to be a range of 0 to 16,383. Orange is a range of 0 to 1. And yellow is 0 or 1. So it's almost like on or off. Just like you can send on and off signals to things. Your yellow outputs here would be on or off. Like here's a trigger send. This just sends a 1 when a note is hit, and a 0 when it's released. there's no velocity scaling in between. And sustain is a 0 or 1 here, because it's either on or off. But anyway, I'm going to put that back on there, and I'm actually going to disconnect the pitch bend cable here, controlling, what is it, the frequency 2. The mod wheel, I'm actually going to have it control, how about pulse width modulation here. No, I got that in the wrong one. Sorry. Don't see too well, it's small print. Let's see here. Noise focus. Balance. Here's PWM. It's covered up by the other cable. Now this is why I have separate patch bays, so you can patch things one to another without getting a lot of cables covering up your GUIs here. Although there's a way to make this pretty and hide the patch cables, and I'll show you that before we're done. But let me do one more thing. You see how if I go into these folders, VCO, there's A so far, so it's saving the parameters of this VCO here. Now I'm going to make a second VCO. Oops. And I'm going to name it B. Mono VCO dash module space B. There we go, we have a separate module. And it has a different name. And then on file, since we made that new one, the error messages appear here, but it makes the file so it won't happen again. If we go here to mono VCO, see there's a B file now. So this one is going to have its parameters saved to a different file, so that way you can have different parameters, which is a good thing, right? Yes. Now what I'm going to do here, make a patch bay for it. If you want it to receive different information, you want to make a patch bay for it. But you know what? Maybe I don't. Maybe I just want it to kind of mirror this oscillator, but I can set different parameters, like a different waveform. So in that case, I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to hook it up inlet and outlet wise to the same patch bay. You can actually share them. Since it's the right patch bay for the right module, it's the VCO patch bay, it'll send data there, and basically everything going in the inlets here is going to go to both of these now. So now we're going to hear two at once. I'm going to have the one on square wave. Remember, the mod wheel will affect it. So put on pulse wave, really, because it won't always be square as I move the mod wheel. This one I'm going to put on sine wave, and I'm going to have it go down an octave on its second oscillator. So now, in order to hear this, we need to, once again, hook it up. It has audio coming out of its inlet here. Its outlet here. But if we want to be able to, like I'd like to put it through the same envelope, you can put it through a separate one if you want and have a ADSR B. But I'm going to put it through the same envelope here. And in order to do that, I need to combine their signals. If you hook both of them up to the same inlets, PD will accept it, but things will distort. You need to have them mixed together, so to speak. So I'm going to type in the name of our last abstraction here that we need to learn about. We've done the mono MIDI in basics, we've done the VCOs, we've done the ADSR, we've done the audio output stereo, but we have an audio combiner mono here. This is for combining two mono signals. So, oops, I should have just left it. Rack / paste in the name, space, A. And so now this combiner here has the ability to combine this signal with this signal and balance them as you move them left and right. If you want to hear more of this oscillator, you go this way. You want to hear more of this, you go this way. And then its output will go into the envelope here. And there we go. So now, let's hear this. Now the glide times are different, so that's why we're hearing this. Let's move this one's up a little bit. So that's a combination of this sine wave here. Move its frequency down so it's at octaves. Combined with the square wave here. Let's say we want it to sound a little more siney. Do this. And as a result, you also hear more of the low tone of this sine wave. What else? So that's the combiner, and this does save your combiner's slider settings to its folder here. By now we should see a text file in each of these folders. There's the combiner, there's one that's A. There's the audio output, one file saved, that's A. ADSR has one, that's A. MIDI In Basic, one, that's A. And here we go. The combiner, the VCO has two, A and B, because there's two of them. And so that's really how this system works. Now, I said you can make this look pretty. I'm going to save what we have here. And in fact, if I save this, for example, watch this. I'm going to close. Since everything gets saved in those text files in real time, here, everything's going to have the same parameters because it loads them from the text files. And it has the same patching because I saved this patch file. So this patch file saves the position of your modules and which patch cables are going to what. And then the parameters of the modules get saved in those text files in the folders. So I loaded it up and the same sounds right at my fingertips. So, I mean, that's how the thing works. So I just wanted to show you. Here's the PD window. You notice there's no errors in it now. That's because we didn't load any new modules in. They were already there and they had their text files there, so there's no errors. So that error you don't worry about. That's expected whenever you make a new module. But anyway, let's make this look clean and stuff. Here's a way of doing that. I'm going to make an object, and this is going to become a subpatch. I'm going to type PD, and then I'll say inner underscore patch. You could really call it anything. Just a PD and a space, and then sort of name will work. And what happens is it opens up a new patch window. And it did so here, but on my other display, so let me get it. There we go. And I'm sure you all know by now, but just to be sure, this patch window here is the patch window for this subpatch here. I'm going to move this over to the side. I'm going to select all these things. I'm going to hit Control X, Command X in Mac. That's for copying and pasting, or cutting and pasting in this case. I'm going to paste it into this window. So now all this stuff is inside here. But we can make it, some of it, view through. First thing, let's see here. We need to do is hit the properties. Of course, it opened that window on my other display. So let me get it. Now this property window lets us graph the contents of this patch window on the parent. So we click here, graph on parent. I usually like to click this off because I don't want this subpatch's name in the upper right hand corner looking all ugly. And then down here I want to set the height and width of this, which means what would contain the stuff I want viewable. Now, to make it look nice, I'm only going to have the modules viewable. So, height-wise, I think this is 240 tall, 240, that's 480. And then we'll have a third row here that is actually half size. No, we're going to have 3 rows anyway. So 3 times 240 is 600, well, 720. So 720 is what I'm going to type in here for Y range. 720. But I'm going to put a little space on it so there's margins in between. It'll be 3 modules, so I'm going to put a margin top and between them. So let's say 5 pixels, 5, 10, 15, 20. Let's make it 740 tall. Apply, and you'll see a red square appeared kind of here. Now we need to make it wide enough. 240 and 240 is 480, plus let's put 3 5s on that, 15, 495 wide. Okay. Now, I'm going to move my patch bays over to the side so they're out of the way. And I'm going to move my modules in here and make them look kind of nice. So, just to kind of keep it in somewhat of a signal flow order, I'm going to put this up here with a little bit of margin to the side, like 5 pixels. I'm just estimating. Eyeballing it. Oh, no. I don't think it's 240. It looks like it's 250. I forgot what the width and height of my modules were. So, I got to change the properties. Okay. So, 495. So we're going to include the margins. That's 15 pixels for that. Plus the 250s, that's 515. And then for the vertical, I have it at what? 740, that's 20 plus the height, so 770. 3 times 250 is 750, plus 20 for the margins between the modules, 770. Okay. So now I have the room to move these things into position like this. And we'll put this one down here. Or I could have the 2 VCOs on top of one another. Put the ADSR over here. Trying to make this look half decent. Let's put this here. I made it too tall. $750 plus 2770 should be it. That should be right. But let's get out the properties window again. And it's going to continue putting it in my other display, so let me bring it over. Okay. And so here we go. It's 770. So what I can do is keep trying and hit the apply thing. Maybe they're only 200 tall. So let me try 600 plus 20 is 620. No, that's not tall. Well, yeah. It's kind of tall enough. I should have just went in one of these modules and just looked at its properties and seen how wide and tall they are. Have a definite number. But as it is, this is enough for you to see the general idea. There we go. So now, I can save this, close this window. When I close it, this gray spot then shows changes to the sub patch, graphing this on the parent patch. So now we can see everything without the patch cables. And so we got a fairly decent looking synthesizer. I would just have to take the time to make sure things lined up just right and the margins were nice looking and stuff. You know, Crafty's telling me might as well do it now. So let me just open it up. I think it's just mostly moving these over a bit like that. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. More space on the side. There we go. There we have a simple synth. I'm going to change those glide times, make them shorter. Just a little glide. And then, you know, if you think it's too sine wavy, move it towards the square wave side. There we go. So now, these are just a few of the basic modules, and as you see with their patch bays, there's all sorts of patching that can be done. Where'd the sub patch go? Bet it's on the other screen. Actually, it's not here. Looks like I'm having some display issues. So, let me do this. Oh, wait a minute, it's down here. At the bottom of my screen. Yeah. Come on. There it is. So, as I was saying, with these patch modules and patch bays, there's all sorts of routing and combining you can do. You can even do more complex things with just these modules than what I've done. I just wanted to give you a general tour. And so this is an open-ended system now where you can build your own synthesizer using whatever combinations of modules you want and patching them together and have them communicate in the ways you want. And I'll be showing you examples as I make some things. And of course I'll be releasing more patches, meaning more modules and stuff for the system. I've already designed a lot more than what you see here. This is probably about, here in the rack folder, about maybe a third of the ones I've made so far. So as we go through more videos, you'll see more things appear, and you'll see more modules, and you'll add them to the set, and you'll keep working with them. And as you go, if you have problems or fixes you think need to be made, let me know, and I'll see if I can do them. And at the same time, you know, this is a good way to beta test things. But in any case, I think that's a good intro to it. You see how the system works, and then as we add more modules, you'll see how they work and be able to make all sorts of things. Alright, so I'll see you again next time, next video, lesson 2, where I think I'm going to add the MIDI In controllers, so you can have a lot of controller inputs, like a set of 8, and then even more if you add more modules. and then also maybe the filter. So you can do some filtering and do a little more interesting sound designing at this point. Okay, so I'll see you next time. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed lesson 1. The next video should be coming out within a week or so. Basically, I'm finishing up the semester at one of the colleges I teach at, and then after that point, I will, after this week, have a lot more time, so I'll be able to release videos a little more frequently. But of course, a lot of work goes into the development of the software, as well as making sure the videos are clear, understandable, and that I do cover everything that I want to cover. So, please be patient with me. In any case, some viewers have been asking Crafty, by way of me, what are some of his favorite foods. And so Crafty just wanted me to let you know, me encantan las zanahorias.